He has been actively participating in presenting at various professional platforms on a variety of academic topics. Currently, he is teaching in Riyadh and assisting KSOL TSOL as Vice President. Thank you very much for joining us and giving us your time, Mr. Fayaz. We're looking forward to your interesting webinar. I got Netflix to rescue. All right, so please go ahead. Floor is all yours, Mr. Fayaz.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm really thankful to Educational Webinar Jam to give me this chance to speak about this topic. I've been working on this topic for quite some time, but it's only now that I feel comfortable to or confident to talk about that. So let's start here. And here we go. City of stars, are you shining just for? So we are going to talk about cinema. Films, movies have, they have inspired us, they have impressed us, they have created their own culture for almost over 100 years. So it's been a century. It's been a century of development, of progress, of image and sound and combination of it. We have moved. We have moved a long way from these black and white images that you are seeing on your screen to the CGI, to the latest technology, where even, the things that do not exist in physical state can be presented on the screen. It's a long journey. Movies have given us passion, emotions, feelings of, love and sadness and desperation and forlornness. So a lot of, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. So on the screen, you can see a journey, a very quick journey in 2 minutes from black and white images to this journey to the space. And when we talk about the characters, like they have ranged from all sorts, feelings, emotions, sizes, age groups, communities, nationalities, and so on, so on, so. So, how about using this knowledge, this huge, great, uh, corpora of image and sound for the benefit of our students, for their language learning, for their social development, mental development. So that is what we are going to talk about. So this talk is going to focus on in how many different ways we can use these images, these this huge collection of movies for the benefit of our students. So, and our focus is going to be on the streaming services which has given us a new freedom, a freedom of choice, a freedom of enjoying all these images, stories, wonderful characters, and their wonderful actors and acting and emotions in our own time, on our own terms. So let's start this journey, this wonderful journey. And during this talk, I would love to hear time to time from you, like in how many different ways some of you have actually used this this source. But our topic is not evolution of cinema. Our topic is sorry. So our topic is yes, as I said before, Netflix and how I Netflix my way to rescue. So with this 2 minutes introduction, let's move to the starting point, how it started. So I was teaching like 16 weeks before. I was assigned a teaching level where I had to teach a pre-intermediate group of students, all boys, and I had to teach them reading and writing course. There were 19 in total. And this reading and writing, particularly course, was like, it was the 19% of the total grade of this whole course was actually allocated to independent reading project, IRP. Independent reading project was a big part, of this course. It was, as a pre-intermediate reading and writing course, I was supposed to teach them different books of level 4, graded readers basically. So with like keeping this in mind, the expectations were that these students were turned into fully independent readers, and the books that I was supposed to use had to feature like more historical adventure, suspense, or social issues, fiction titles, stories, novels, dramas like that. The language, which was the range of language which was mentioned in the syllabus was like 15 to 1700 head words. So with these basics of the course, I did my needs analysis in week 1, and I came to know about students' interests. So they told me that they were interested in action, adventure, suspense, war, horror, historical fiction, crime, courtroom drama, and all these kind of things. So some of these genres they had already tried before. Some of them had already tried it in Arabic, and some of them tried like a very beginner level in English. So with Arabic as their first language, I had to select titles which would suit their age group, their language ability, their interest level. So I prepared a list of books and I uploaded on the learning management system that my workplace actually recommends us to use for all kinds of assignments, from like output, inputs, like everything that we have to provide to students. It has to be on that LMS. So on LMS, I selected some books. So I introduced these books to students. These were mostly about adventures, courtroom dramas. Just one book was about the story of a business family. The rest of them were about, detective stories, about murderers, and there was one about war. But mostly were about, adventures, courtroom dramas, crimes related to that. So students selected their books. I uploaded another list with their names, and we did some practice with how to write a summary. This was on my mind, that the basic activity the students have to do with all that reading, with all that extensive reading, it should be like reading a chapter, turning it into important points, main points, and writing a summary on that. Writing a summarized version of the whole chapter in 9 to 12 sentences. So keeping that in mind, I took a start with this ER extensive reading project. Let's see how things turned out. So with these books already selected by students, I uploaded a list. They started reading. They started working on their chapters, on their summarized writing. And then we discussed a rubric. And with that rubric, I told my students to be careful about these 4 points: accuracy, paraphrasing, focus, and conventions, language conventions. And I explained all these 4 categories with the grades assigned to them. So we practiced we practice in the class like about paraphrasing, how to paraphrase, how to explain ideas in one's own language, using one's own words and expression and style, and also how to do summarizing. And then this was the result. And this was the result. And this was the result. As you can see here, as you can see, it was a lot of details students came up with. They were not getting the idea that that they have to focus on the main events only. They have to explain something on in their own words and their own language. As you can see, like one student explained everything, the original language of the characters within inverted commas. So it looks like almost copy paste. So, and a lot of details. So this was the result. Some students found reading, extensive texts or paragraphs like whole chapters at home on their own. They found it like, a daunting task. There was, you can see the scores. They were quite low out of 10. Some students left their, work incomplete. Now, I started thinking that what's happening, what's going on. I talked to students, and then they came up with so many issues, so many problems, and here were one of them. So they said that they don't have time. They said that they like the titles or they like the genre, but they found materials difficult or something like that, and they came up with lots of excuses. But when I thought about that, I came up with these points that yes, time limitation was an issue with students. Like they really thought that yes, they expressed their concerns clearly, that they didn't have enough time to read all the long chapters. Each chapter was like 7 to 8 pages. That was level 4. So it was like some books were more than 1,700 head words. So, and then they couldn't relate themselves to the material. So they said that they don't like it, it's not relevant, or something like that. And they say that there is no they said that there's no impact on their learning. They said that when they were reading in the class, it helped them. They got vocabulary, they got ideas, they understood characters and so on. But when they read the same chapters at home, they found that they didn't see any result or impact or understanding. Basically, they were lacking in comprehension. So there were other issues like they couldn't find their independence in that work, like reading at home, converting it into summarized versions. Maybe the reason was that the independent learning, the practice of working with oneself, disciplined work at home, that was missing. So some of them found that these PDF books uploaded in LMS were not very helpful in reading. So, like, they found it strange to read those texts on their phone screens. So like, these were the issues, and these were the issues I found in some research, and I found some relevance with students' complaints and what actually the research says. So the last 3 points here, measuring intensive reading and the lack of teacher training about extensive reading. I will come back to these points later. About my assessment and the testing of what students were reading at home, those books, it was only based on their written work, which was actually summaries. So there were issues even in that, even in my testing, in my assessment. So these were the issues. So I found some more problems there. There was a disconnect between what was happening in the outside world and what was happening inside the class. So it was a difference of culture. What I was doing in my class within the four walls and what was happening outside in the world of advertisement, film, and social media. And when I talked to students, they told me a lot about how they like to spend their time outside the class. And of course, that was uh, with lots of videos, with lots of use of social media, and a lot of time on streaming services. So there I understood this gap. That my classroom culture was different, and what they were doing outside, it was totally different. I uh, I noticed one more thing: the kind of language they were using on, in their social media accounts or channels or websites. It was totally different what we were doing in the class. So, let me give you one example here. One student, for example, I said that, oh, it's a really nice book. Why you don't find it interesting? So one student said that, yes, teacher, it's a really sick book, and I was shocked. Sick? What do you mean by sick? And like, so you find it boring? It's a bad choice. So because what I understand about the word sick is different from what students understand. So and that student smiled. He looked at me and he said, "The teacher, you should go to Snapchat. You should go to those websites which teenagers use, and you will understand that language." I did that, and what I found, sick means nice. Sick means good. So this is one example how like the culture inside the class and what students were doing in the real world, how these two things were really different. So, uh, and I also noticed that the way students consume narratives, the way students consume stories is different, totally different what we teachers assume inside the classroom. So stories are visual these days. Stories are like, they have a very strong element of audio and visual than linear text, which is like which we find in the books these days. So, like, and then, like for example, when you watch an advertisement, you can watch a whole advertisement in 30 seconds, right? So you can watch the whole scenario of a person's life from his birth to his death within 30 seconds in a commercial, in a TV commercial. And those commercials are everywhere. They are on your phone, they are on websites, they're on social media and everywhere, on your TV screens. So students' consumption of stories is completely different what I was trying to do with the books in the class. So, and with this strong impact of visual and sound, students' attention span for story reading, for reading a story in linear text was really, really short. And again, I don't know, I should say the word blame. Should I blame TV, internet, or advertisement, or commercials for that? They have actually, like all these things, actually have shortened our attention span. So now, if on, for example, on Facebook, or on WhatsApp, if there's a long text, I would like to skip it. And that's true. People don't have time. So, uh, or maybe people have time, but they want something really short, something really, full of visuals and sounds and all that. Another thing, the interactability, how how these teenagers interact with the text, that has changed. That has changed. So on social media and streaming services, like, you can interact. You can, when you share a video, or when these young people share a video or something like that, they they can comment on that. They can answer comments, and they can give their reactions, opinions, explanations, and interpretations. So students told me that when they watch something on streaming service, they comment on that, they share their views on that, and then they hear from their friends what they think. So that interaction with the text was missing in my class. And I also noticed the purposefulness was different. What I was doing in the class and what was happening outside. So like, digital narrative brings immediate results, like a video. And when it brings, like, for example, when you watch something on Netflix, or when you watch a short video on social media, you feel the emotion. It is quick. It conveys its message. And so with that thing, it looks more purposeful, more meaningful, right? And this experience becomes instantly transformative. Quickly, it takes you, a short video takes you to another world for a few minutes. So it transforms your environment, your thinking, your presence of mind. It takes you from the current situation to another world, to another time. So it has an instant transformative quality in it. So as a result, what happens? We are engaged. We feel entertained. We take it as a good use of time, of passing time. So the element of entertainment increases. So with all these issues that I noticed in my class, and what students were doing outside, so I started looking for the solution. So when I started searching for that, I came to know that the experience of watching TV is actually comparable to reading books in terms of narrative transportation. Just like this book can take me to another world, exactly the same way a television series can take me to another world, another time. And so this was a similarity I noticed. And I also found that the internet has made both books and TV shows ubiquitous, like everywhere. You can find now books and TV shows everywhere, on your phone, on your screen, on social media, everywhere. And they now increasingly, every day we see that the books complement movies, movies complement books. There are movies based on books. There are books which are inspired by movies. So they're complementing each other. So, and the research has actually shown that there's a very small difference between how people read books and how people watch shows, and their reactions, how they react to that. Rather, in many cases, movies and books are interchangeable. So, and then I moved on further on my research, and then I seriously started looking at changing my way of doing extensive reading in my class. But before that, I had to re-inform myself. I have to relearn. I have to teach myself about that. So I have to unlearn the old ways. So for that, I learned some basics about that. The students need to have pleasure from reading. Extensive reading is for pleasure. It is not intensive. They don't have to look at for each and every word and its meaning. They have to enjoy it. They have to enjoy that reading. And it has to be easy. They need to read something which is adapted to their level so that they can enjoy it in their comfort zone. So they can find it pleasurable, whether they are at home, whether they're waiting in queue for something, or whether they are at the campus. So, and they should be able to read as much as possible. And there should be a variety of texts. They should read in their second language in English as they read in their own language. It should be fast, right? So, speed of reading, the level of enjoyment, and the level of understanding should be linked closely, closely. So, so I thought, and I should not expect them to use dictionaries for each and every word because that would kill the enjoyment of reading. So they should guess the meanings of the unknown words. They should use the context, which is available all around the paragraph or the page to know the meaning of that word. So uh, with this understanding, uh, I read an article by Samuel Cook, and I, he said that 140 million hours everyday people actually spend on Netflix. That is a huge number. So I thought that my students are one of them. My students are some of those people who are spending 140 million hours a day watching Netflix or other streaming services. And then I read an interesting article from James Taper in the Guardian newspaper, and he talked about language learning with Netflix, LLN. That is a language learning tool which is available, as an independent free tool to be used with Netflix, where you can stop, you can watch a show or a movie in two languages, and you can repeat it in your L1, and then you can repeat the same dialogue in your L2. There are pauses so that you can absorb what the actors are saying. We tried it. It did not work. With some people it worked, with the other people it didn't work. So we moved on. But then I also started learning about what is extensive viewing. If I start using Netflix in my class, how it's going to be. So I came to know that it has actually, Netflix gives us a lot of, it gives helps to foreign language learners, and it has become a realistic option for them. It has become the part of their everyday life. They go there, they watch it. So, and I found some similarity. Just like extensive reading, extensive viewing engages learner at a very effective level for pleasure. And it can be, it helps both in L1 and L2. And I understood that students need to watch series rather than movies. Why? Because in the series, there is a chronological viewing, there's a chronological order, and it's just like a book. It is divided into chapters, episodes, parts. So they have to grow their understanding the way events move from one episode to another. They see the growth of characters. They see the roundness of characters in every mood, in every situation, how they change, how they transform, how they evolve. So, and students should be able to learn the background knowledge of the characters, their relationships, how they are exposed to different situations. And out of that understanding, they should understand about their vocabulary and positive effects on their language learning. So, and as we all know that subtitles on Netflix actually promote, a very, they lower the level of your uh, feeling of, you know, when you feel that, oh, I'm not understanding, I'm not getting what they're talking about. So this this frustration of not understanding can be lower with subtitles. So with that thing in my mind, I started encouraging my students to bring them from books to um, extended viewing. So and as this research from 2015 shows that, especially at the lower proficiency level, uh, subtitles can reduce the cognitive load of working memory. You don't need to remember everything. You can just read the subtitles and you will understand everything. So I started looking for books. As you can see on the right side half of the screen, the title of this book, The Irishman, carries the sign of Netflix. So this book was actually, adapted from a Netflix series. And I found a lot of these titles in a local bookstore here in Riyadh. So I um, I found a lot of good help, a lot of good happen on this website, erfoundation.org, and I would recommend anyone who wants to try that. There are a lot of materials, a lot of ideas on extensivereadingfoundation.org. And then I found some books there and I looked for them and I found a lot of books in the local bookstores. So I started with vocabulary. So I started with the chat function. So I assigned students, first of all, this book, Lupin. Lupin, the Gentleman Thief. It's a series. It's a very successful series on Netflix, and I'm sure many of you must have watched it and enjoyed that. So I started with this, and I started with a very interactive way. What I did, I used the chat function. The chat function works just like on LMS. It works just like the way you work with WhatsApp. So I assigned students some vocabulary in the chat box. They discussed that. I assigned them some pages. I asked them to find some difficult words on that page, and we started with page number 1. And I told them to find the words that they are new for them. I asked them to type them in the chat box. Everybody could see that, just like WhatsApp messages, and we discussed that. Uh, I started simple activities about words. I started with words so that students should not feel very, overwhelmed with the text, with a lot of text. So I took those words from their chat, whatever they mentioned in the chat, and I prepared simple cross match activities with that, and with the discussions of the meaning, or with the discussion of the page that they were reading. We started this simple understanding of the text with the help of words and their meanings. I tried to keep everything, at a very low pressure level, so that they don't feel the pressure of looking at, a lot of text and all that. Okay. Then I started with other categories of words, like transition words. So this is one screenshot from my LMS. So I divided those. I took only transition words, and I asked students to cross-match with their categories. And from here started the journey of watching. So I took like one step at a time. I moved very slowly and gradually. So and I introduced all these books to them. They selected, we started a new list of books, and then they started watching these series and reading at the same time. So the new reading started. Um, uh, Students started watching different episodes of the different series, and in the class, I asked them to send me their favorite images, the images of the favorite part of the episode that they were watching. So I projected them on the screen, showed the image to the whole class, and then we started talking about that. So students, like, first I get them talking. After vocabulary, I wanted them to speak about that. So they start talking about, okay, in this scene there is this happening, this thing happening, we can see that the main character is doing this, the ocean is about to do this, like that. So this was the second step, speaking about their favorite episodes. Third, I started uploading on LMS small clips of uh, from the first season of Lupin. And then I started asking them different questions. So, as you can see, again, I was taking very small steps. Like, I asked them, okay, after watching the trailer, how would you explain the first impression about this scene? And they were supposed to type their short answers in the text box. Okay, question number 2. List 5 words you managed to catch from the trailer. Question number 3. Try recalling some of the series or films like Lupin and write your reasons about your answers, that why you have chosen that another film, which is just like this one. And then I uploaded a graded reader about that. And then again, very simple activities, true and false, about chapter number 1. So they watched episode 1, they read chapter 1, and then they did these simple tasks, very low intensity tasks, and we started moving ahead. And the interest started generating. Students, I felt that now students were engaged. They were catching a momentum of reading. And then I asked them to present what they have read. So I didn't ask them to speak in very extended kind of speech or presentation. I asked them, okay, just share something which you have remembered from that episode. So they discussed all those things. They wrote. I invited them on the whiteboard in pairs, and they started sharing all these ideas. And then I asked them to present like how was their journey? How was their journey in finding the books, reading them, something like that. And they started with very, very small 2 minutes presentations, 3 minutes presentations. So they talked about, okay, I went to the bookstore, I found this book, it is very interesting, and so and so and so. And then I started watching this series or so and so episode, and they started working that. And then, sorry. And then the time came for longer presentations. So I asked them, now move to the whole chapter, with reading of their favorite parts. And this is what happened. They came up with, they printed the pages, they put those pages on the whiteboard. They talked about them, and they did some activities on the LMS, which I'm going to show you very soon. So once the students were able to connect their Netflix viewing with their reading, then and when they were at the stage of complete chapter reading within 3 weeks, yes, almost 3 weeks, yes, then I took them back to writing a summary. And this time the results were different, much better. There were problems, which you can see, like here you can see a screenshot from my from the text box from my LMS. Here, look at the first 3 words in the beginning. Then look at the characters' names. Look at the important details. And so there is a sequence. There's an order, how things were happening, how characters, how the exposition was happening, the time, the place, the characters, their age, their relationships with each other. Now, things were really getting clear to students. Now, what was behind that? So now they were taking deeper interest in their reading, and that was supported by all that extensive viewing which they were doing at home. So there was now more element of enjoyment was there, and that was visible. And here are 2 more examples. So you can see still some summaries were very long, but now they were getting to description of the sequential events, the order in events, the link between events, like that. And I saw that I saw a big progress from those very, very long passages to this very focused kind of reading. And here are the results. A lot of progress. This is what they did in week 6 and 7. So now the scores were, you can see the range. The range is between like 6 to 9.33 out of 10. There was a lot of progress, and it was really reassuring that now they were getting into that. And then I started asking what they were doing, and then they told me that they were watching all those episodes on their phones, and then those episodes made the text very clear to them. They were able to create a link. They were able to remember the names of the characters and all the details. So that was my experiment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Fan. It was very interesting, and we wish to replicate your action research, I can say here, and interesting results, and we can see the progress and the process you have shared with us. So now we can engage with the presenter himself. You can unmute yourself and you can ask questions directly, or you can write in the chat box. It will be read out for you. So everybody is saying thank you for you, Mr. Fayaz, in the chat box, and they find it as a good presentation, excellent presentation, amazing. You have any questions for Mr. Fayaz? You can unmute yourself now and ask him directly, or you can even type up your question in the chat box that can be read out. We also request you to please fill in the feedback link that was shared with you in the chat box.
Yes, somebody is asking for the presentation slides. Yes, I can share. I can share these slides with Ms. Maria, and she will be able to share with all the attendees here. I'm really happy that you enjoyed that. Here, I would like to add something here that Netflix has a huge variety of content available there. You can find documentaries, you can find things for young kids, you can find documentaries about nature, for inventions, for personalities and interviews. There is a huge range of genres, like starting from comedy and then going on to horror and so many things. And it's actually a resource for us. And here, if you allow me, I would like to share one website where you can do different courses about how to use Netflix. It is actually a collaboration between Netflix and another group of learners or presenters or teachers, I would say. It's called Stage 32. So if you go to stage32.com, you will see a lot of courses. Some courses are free, some courses are heavy, and they are most of the courses are available are related to acting, script writing, stage setting, or something like that. But there are few courses which are related to language. Like, for example, how to work with script writing and what is good script writing, what is not good, something like that. So if you find something interesting there, you can find it. Here, there is one more very nice, good source about Netflix I would like to share. I wonder if I can show. All right. Oh, wait. Here. No. Yeah, this one. Can I share my screen?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
All right. Okay. Wait. Okay.
You have to share entire screen again. Yeah. That's it. We can see it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. This website, Netflix Book Club. Netflix Book Club. It's a nice website. Like, so you can join the book club. You can register there, and you can introduce this to your students. There are different sections, what they're reading currently, stories on Netflix, more to enjoy. And you go down, when you dig deeper, you can find trailers, you can find books, you can find introductions to the books, and these introductions will tell you whether these books or series are suitable for your students or not. So it's regularly updated. They put in spotlight on the recent titles, very interesting short details and all that. It's really interesting, and you can ask your student to spend some time there. I think registration on this is free. There's one more website I would like to share with you. It's about extensive reading. This is ERF, Extensive Reading Foundation. On Extensive Reading Foundation, you can find a huge collection of graded readers. So there's a list. When you click on any list, it opens, for example, it opens a link for you. When you go to the link, you can see the whole detail, like the title, authors, publishers, keywords, the level, word count, what age group it is suitable for, the genre, and if you go here, you can find some other description here. So it is actually a corpora. It's actually a listing. But if you go deeper, there are more things there. So I'm not sure if I can share anything about stage 32, but these are the websites that that you find very, very useful for you, especially when you want to get ready to combine.
As we have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to cut you in between. We have a question from Mr. Yusuf. He's saying using movies and Netflix in tandem with books seems useful. However, within the Saudi culture context, in terms of your action research, how would you rate the efficiency? Interesting question.
That's a good question. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I would say that in Saudi Arabia now, it's been like how many, 2 or 3 or 4 years that we have been having cinemas open here now. So there's more acceptance for movies. Like I remember 10 years ago, we were not able to discuss movies, and or we were able to discuss movies because students used other ways when there were no cinemas here. Students used to download movies, or they used to travel to have cinematic experience in neighboring countries. But now, as we are having cinemas here, students actually, I have seen a lot of them visiting cinemas every weekend. So now there's more openness to talk about these kind of topics and issues. And with that thing in mind, I've, in my recent visits to the bookstores, I've seen special bookshelves dedicated to the books which are available on or which have been adapted or from on movies and which are available on Netflix. So, first of all, it's not difficult to bring this thing up in the class. Number one. Number two, when it has a social acceptance on the larger scale, now students find it easy to connect with the reading and all that. About efficacy, it's really important that you take time with students, you take them into confidence, you give them this assurance that it's going to help them, and you take small steps. If they are, for example, some of my students were not able to complete the books. Some of my students were not able to, read from, cover to cover. But they were able to watch the whole series. Obviously, these youngsters, the teenagers, are more visually attracted, towards cinemas and all that. But here, take it as a starting point in your class, according to the level of your student. And even if some of them are not able to finish the book, I'm sure the interest that you as an instructor generate in them, it will take them further on their journey to discover more in reading and connecting the reading with the movies and all that.
Great.
I hope I give you a good answer to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of session now, but I would like to read a comment before we finish. We have somebody saying, I had thought Netflix is for time wasting. I never knew it could be this resourceful. So that was a really thought. And thank you so much, Mr. Fayaz, for giving us your input today and sharing your research with us. It was really enlightening.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you for all the attendees who are joining us today from all across the world, and we hope to see you in our future webinars. Keep on following us on social media and our website for all the updates. Bye for now.